So I want to model this honeypot and give it material, and I was inspired by a question asked on Blender Stack Exchange, and I will link to the page so you can get the image. So I'm going to begin with a UV sphere, and I'm going to keep it as it is with the default settings. I go in edit mode, and I'm going into the edge menu or Control E and unsubdivide in order to get less faces. And if you keep an iteration of 1, this is the kind of topology you will get, and here is what you'll get with other iterations. So I'm glad with iteration of 1, it's exactly what I want, oblique edges like that. So now what I can do is shift to transparency with Alt-Z, and then B-box to select all the top vertices, and I delete them with X, and same thing for the bottom vertices. Now I select everything, and then I go into the face panel and choose poke faces. Then I select just one central vertex, and I press Shift G, and I choose select similar amount of adjacent faces. And what I can do is save all these vertices into a vertex group with a Control G, assign to new group. Now I can scale up, and here is what it gives, peaks like that. So back in object mode with Control 2, I give it a subdivision surface with a level of 2, and then a right click to shade smooth, and I'm pretty close to what I see on the image. So I can scale up or down the peaks. If I want, I can select back the vertices with Shift G or through the vertex group to scale up or down if I'm not glad with the peak scale size. So what thing I can do is give my object a bevel modifier, put it above the subdivision surface, and if I vary the amount, it will create a bevel on the peaks, and it will allow to sharp the edges like that. So depending on the value I've chosen in the amount, so it will be more or less sharp. So for example, for the first one, I can duplicate it, apply the bevel, and show you what kind of topology it will give, something like that. But actually I'm pretty glad with the result I've got without any bevel, so I'm gonna keep it like it is. So now what I need to do now is to change a bit the shape so that it fits better with the image, the reference image. So I put with Shift S, I put the cursor to selected, then I create a lattice, and I scale up the lattice in object mode so that it contains my object. I scale it a bit down, and then in the object data panel I need to increase a bit the resolution on W, which is the z-axis of my lattice, so that I can have an additional edge loop on the horizontal edge loop. So now I can select my object and give it a lattice modifier with the lattice I've created as object. And then I can move both my lattice and my object, put it in front of my reference image, scale a bit so that I can it really match the image. Also, what I could do is lock my reference image so that it doesn't move. So I just need to select it, and in the end panel I lock the location values. Now I select my lattice, go in edit mode, then select the top vertices and scale them until the shape is correctly deformed. Same thing with the central edge loop, etc. But actually I realized that one edge loop is not enough, so I need to increase the resolution in the object data panel and choose a resolution of 4. So I've got an additional horizontal edge loop, and it's better to shape correctly. So I scale up, scale down, move the edge loops, and when I'm glad, I can go back to object mode. And then I can move my object and my lattice. I select my object, and in the modifier panel I can apply the lattice with a Ctrl A, and then I can get rid of my lattice cage. Back in edit mode, what I need to do is create the neck, the bottleneck. So I select the top edge loop, and I'm going to extrude up, and then Z0 to scale on the Z axis, and with right click loop tool circle I can create a circle, a perfect circle. So loop tools is an add-on, so you need to enable it. Then extrude up, and I need to create the screw, so I'm going to create 2 edge loops, and it needs to be a little bit twisted, so I'm going to use the shear tools. So Alt Control Shift S, then Y to make the vertices glide on the Y axis. So it's a quick way to create a fake screw, and then Alt E to create extrusion along normal. And then same thing for the bottom. I need to select the bottom edge loop and extrude down, scale on the Z axis, and then right click circle, extrude down again, and then extrude inwards, again, and then F to fill the shape. So I need to make some little changes, like perhaps Control X to dissolve this edge, then select all these vertices and scale them up, because it will improve the shape on the top just before the bottleneck. Then select all these vertices, and then in order to scale a bit down the peaks and move them a bit down like that. And same thing for the bottom peaks, it needs to be improved a bit like that. Okay, so I've got my shape, I guess. So now we can make the material. So first thing, create a table with wood texture, create lights. I've created areas. If I click on the green icon, I can see the parameters, for example color, power, and also enable shadow and contact shadows. And the other one, same thing, it's a white color with 700 watts for the power. And now in the shader editor, switch to world and create this chain of nodes. So if you press Ctrl T while you select the background, you will have this chain of nodes with texture coordinate mapping and environment texture node. And in this node you need to load an HDRI picture, which is a 360-degree picture that will create light environment. For example, I've downloaded a living room picture from HDRI Heaven, which is a free HDRI website. So now I can take care of my material. So I select my object, I switch to object in the shader editor and create a new material with a principal BSDF by default. So I put my cursor on the base color, and I press E to get the eyedropper and select a yellow characteristic color. And then as it's glass material, I can put the transmission at 1 and the IOR at 1.5. And I can put the roughness as low as possible, perhaps 0, to give it reflectivity. And as I'm in Eevee, I need to go into the material settings, and blend mode, choose alpha blend, and shadow mode, choose alpha hashed, and also disable show backface and enable screen space refraction. And then in the render panel, I need to enable screen space reflection and enable refraction. So now the last thing I can do is put a bit of bump. So I need to create with Ctrl T, I can create this chain of nodes. So I've enabled the Node Wrangler add-on to get this kind of shortcuts. So use the object output of the texture coordinate and replace the image texture by a noise texture, and then create a vector bump node, plug the noise into the height of the bump, and plug the bump into the normal of the principal BSDF. Lower down a bit the strength of the bump and choose the scale of the noise texture. For me it was something like 1 or 2, and to give a bit irregularity on the surface. So I think I'm pretty good like that. So thanks for your attention.